Hello everyone, my name is Sally Cheney and I'm going to show you how to how to not only make a face mask but how to mass produce them. It starts with your fabric. The best fabrics I've found to be tightly woven sheets, high density sheets, microfibers, which you can also get in a sheet, or quilt fabric. I have also ordered some antimicrobial fabric to make them, but I have a feeling it's not necessary. So go with the most abundant and economic fabric you can get, but be thinking about who's going to wear them. The people who wear them will be the people who don't normally need face masks, like all of the people working in nursing homes, the clients. I know of one nursing home locally that needs 180 masks, family members, and people who don't feel well. If you yourself get a upper respiratory cough or something, you might want to wear a mask. And another reason to have a mask is if you don't want to touch your face, which I will tell you, in sewing, I didn't realize how many times I touched my face or put my pins in my mouth or do a lot of different things like that. So you want to be very careful about that. The masks I'm going to show you look like this. I have the one option, they're the pleated kind. One option is to have the ties on the side, and I have a little twisty inside. So when you put them on, ideally you want it to go up to your nose where your glasses would be, and you want your strings long enough to tie. And then the other thing is it should go all the way over your chin too. So you want to bring it down and have it cover your chin, and then you tie that. So that's one option. The other option is to have your ties go across, all the way across, tie. This, for some reason, I find this a little bit more comfortable, but really I don't know that it matters. The only thing is that with the ones on the side, you have a little more leeway with having the top one a little bit longer and the bottom one shorter, because they don't have to be as long on the bottom. So that is what we're making here. These also have a space in the back to put a filter in. So it can be with or without filter depending on who's wearing it and if they want to add the filter. So after watching many videos from doctors and nurses, this is what seems to be the most desirable option. The ties are up to you. Try it on, wear it for a little while, and see what you like. Once your fabrics are washed and dried and ready for you to cut, then you can use scissors or you can use a rotary cutter. My sheets were striped, and I just felt compelled to cut them exactly on the stripe. This is an example of my sheets cut into strips. I was compelled to use scissors just because I wanted to cut exactly on the stripes vertically. These are stripes horizontally, and so I'm fine with using the rotary cutter. First thing I would do is clean up the edge like so. I've actually already done that, and then turn the fabric over. Once you have the fabric on here, I'm going to recommend making them 8 inches wide by 18 inches long. Mine are 7. I think they could be a little bit wider. It's up to you on that. But from here on out, all my directions will be 8 by 18. So you cut that, and then you just cut all the lengths you have. And like I said, that is a scrap of fabric. I'm going to show you the real sheet fabric that I have. Once you have those cut, you would open them up and lay them on top of each other. You can press them if you want to at this point. Lay them one on top of the other, or you can double them, however you want, whatever your preference is, and then cut your 18-inch length. So you would cut here and then cut across the 18. These are cut, ready to be sewn. Now when you fold this up, it's not a nice thing about using a sheet is that many times both sides are the right side, so you're not quite so concerned about that. I'm using finger pressing. You can use your iron, or you can use a tool to press, and I'm going to just start stitching. Now, because I'm using sheets, you might find that your needle wants to push the fabric in. This is actually a sharp needle. This is a denim needle, size 80. If you can get a denim needle size 70 or another sharp needle, that's what you want, because the density, the high count, thread count, is hard for a universal point to punch through. So you just go from one to the other, and notice how as I finish one, I start the second one. So that is step number 1 in the sewing. Once you have that done, you've sewn all of them all the way down the stack. You turn them around and then you repeat on the other end. You end up with a string of finished edges. Next, you're going to cut them apart and stack them up. Excuse me. Ready for the next step. Oh, oops, one more. Ready for step 2, we're going to mark them. And you're going to use your template. And their template is 1 inch shorter. And notice how I haven't pressed. If you feel compelled to press, you can. I want to show you how to do it as quickly as possible. And that means holding your horses on pressing until you need to. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our template and we're going to work on the right side of our fabric with the hem to the back side. And then we're going to match the hem at the top, and we're going to match the hem at the bottom. Then we're going to make all the same markings. Normally, I would use a water-soluble or a disappearing ink pen, but for the video, so that it's easy to see what I'm doing, I'm going to use a regular ink pen. Then I will go back and do all of the markings, showing me which direction to pleat, where the front is, where the bottom is, the top, the back pleat, and then the fold. I'll do the same on this side. Most important thing being the lines. The arrows are not necessarily important. And again, I would not use ink that I couldn't wash out or disappear with air normally. So then I'll go ahead and do my arrows, arrow, 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 and mark front, bottom, top. This top fold, you don't have to mark because it has nothing more to do than to be the third pleat on the back. Each one has 3 pleats front and back. Now we're going to sew it. And the arrows have to do with the direction of the pleat. So this means that line is folded and brought up to this line. So there's pleat 1. And we're going to sew that. Go ahead and lower your needle so that when you do pleat 2, now this one, I'll go from this line downward, the arrow telling me which direction, and I'm going to match these 2 lines up to make the second pleat. Raise my foot and tuck that in. And you can use a tool to do this. We all have a tool. I'm just going to use this tool because it's the closest thing to me. But you can use whatever you have to help you with your fingers when you sew. And notice how I'm not getting that line perfect because there are no pleat police on this. You just want to use that as a guide. You want to get as close as you can. You don't have to spend a lot of time making it perfect though. And then we're going to take this last one, fold it up, and stitch it down. Holding on to it. You can pin them if you want to. Especially at first, you might want to pin. Then I'm going to turn it around and do the exact opposite from the other side. And this is why these arrows aren't as necessary on one side, the second side, because you're going to use the opposite side to help you know which direction that pleat's going. So we're going to start stitching that down, and we're going to repeat. And we're going to take this line folded and match to make the second pleat. Lower the needle, lift so that it's easy to get your fingers underneath the space that you're working, and set it down. Again, set it down. And finally, this one is going to be pleated the other way because the arrow, see how it, just fold it, match it, stitch it. You're welcome, certainly, to pleat, to press, to do whatever you want. I'm doing it with a minimal amount of extra steps just to be quick. And I think after you've made a few, you'll find yourself able to do the same thing. So you notice we have 3 pleats on the front, and then this last one is just going to be folded down. There we are. And that makes the third. This actually will be the third pleat. 1, 2, 3 for the back. Now I press. So I'm going to take my iron, and I'm just going to press this in after doing a little finger pressing. Press that down. So we're going to fold it at the bottom toward us, because we're working on the right side, and we're just going to fold it there. Oh, this ink I can actually see through. So we're going to fold it straight as we can, and we're going to take the top and fold it. In this case, it's going to be the bottom over top. So on the right side, it's top over bottom. Now I'll go ahead and give that one more little press, not a lot because I don't want it to remember the inside out press marks. And what I do is I just peek inside and make sure my pleats are somewhat matching. So you can see I have these 3 pleats going downward and these 3 pleats going downward, which is what you want. Now I'll just stitch the sides up. You can back up, but on this one I'm going to put the ties on the end, so it's not really, it'll hold up because I'm going to put the ties on the ends on this one. And either way, it's going to hold up because of the ties. Once you have all of that done, we'll cut off the extra threads. We'll trim the corners. And we're going to turn it right side out. So I'm just going to take my thumb, turn it, my thumb, fold it over, turn it right side out. Do the same on this end. And we have the back with the 3 sides. And the front with 3 sides. So that's what we wanted. And then you can press, and then you can take a tie. And I just have just a twisty tie. Seems like I have a million of these, so it's perfect use. And we're going to make them short enough to go in the top. And slide that in there. So it'll hold it. And then take the ties. These are pre-made ties that I made. I want to use ribbon just to make it a little faster, but the essence of making a tie, I would make them 40 inches long. The essence is to press in half, fold, press, fold it over, and stitch. So that's what this is with the edges finished. That's all that is. I don't have any ribbon. I've got it ordered. And then just make sure you have the front side. And I'm going to stitch this. And what I do is I make it a little longer. So I fold it in half. But instead of putting the half even with the center, I put it even with the top so that I have a longer thread around a longer string to tie around my head than around my neck. So that makes it kind of handy. And I'll do the same on the opposite. Top fold, pin, and stitch. And when I stitch, I will stitch from the bottom. I'll probably do a little reversing here. Pull my pin out before I get to it. Needle in. And I'm going to pivot and go right along the top to hold that tie in at the top of the ridge. Sometimes they tell you only need it just big enough to go over your nose, but it seems like it would be harder to do that way, so I'm doing it what I consider the easy way. And let's just sew to the next tie. Pivot. I encourage you to press this before you sew the tie on. And then I go around the outside too. So I'm stitching this side down and across. You can go across all the way, or you can just tie it off here and jump to the other side. Go across and down. So, and that is why I don't bother tying off on the inside seam, because it gets really well tied off with the ties. That's one style, cut that thread. The other style is virtually the same thing. I'm not going to actually sew it, I'll just show you with ties. So taking another one that's already done, folding it, top, bottom. This is with disappearing ink. You can see the difference in the ink color. This is going to fade away or wash away. Sewn right sides together. All right, so that's already sewn, imagine. And then the other ties would be with the twisty up in the top, like that. Visualize these finished, and then when you sew this, you're going to sew above and below the twisty and this time I would center it. I would center this tie if I was doing above and below, and the second tie. So just to give you an idea of how to do that, it's the same thing, only just do it across the bottom instead of across the sides.